Hey, this is my derivative, and this is what it sounds like. Yeah, this build features an EC conversion kit from Clever and Cipulot. As I unbox it in the background, here are a few quick notes. In the box, you get a CNC machined palm plate with integrated housings, a Cipulot EC60X PCB, 2 sets of gaskets and the screws required to build the PCB plate assembly. It also includes chopsticks. You need your own sliders for all 1U and 2U keys. You also need a complete spacebar stabilizer. You need your own domes and springs too. And if it's not obvious, you need your own derivative keyboard with the daughter board and the JST cable. This kit cost me $150 USD. Shipping was $30. I think this is a good price. It's certainly cheaper than getting EC60X separately, buying deskeys, housings, and getting a plate cut by Hype. That would set you back somewhere between $160 and $190 USD depending on a plate material. Here are the parts a bit closer. Lots of EC screws. A bit more than you need in case you lose a few. 2U wire retainers. Wires do not clip into this plate. Instead, you use these retainers to hold them in place. You just screw them onto the plate with these tiny screws, of which I only got 5. Good thing I use split backspace and only need 4. These are the friction fit gaskets. We'll test them later. Blue ones are 70A, transparent ones are 50A. They make contact with the O-ring standoffs. So, with this plate, you essentially get one new mounting method in addition to top mount and JJW gaskets. Here's the PCB. It's very pretty, has a nice derivative logo. JST connector is in the special derivative spot, which is different from the typical H60. So, if you were to buy a normal EC60X to use with derivative, the JST would be slightly misaligned with the case cutout. For my MX builds, I did use a Hini H60 in top mount and it worked fine. And here's the plate. The machining is really good. The engineering seems great as well. This plate is much more rigid and much heavier than it looks. The housings are integrated, so it has these thicker parts everywhere and feels way more substantial than a normal palm plate would. It feels much nicer than the carbon fiber plate with deskeys housings in my current 60% EC build. Speaking of which, this B-Box 60 is the only EC board I currently have, and I did not build this one, it was a gift. Have a listen. Yeah, it has issues. The alphas are okay. I think Topre in general sounds great in spacious ABS cases, but the mods and the spacebar sound horrible. I was never compelled to fix it because this board has a brutal front height and the PCB doesn't support my preferred layout, so I will cannibalize this build. The sliders I will be moving over are deskeys. Domes are OEM from 86U as far as I know, not sure about the springs. The old build came apart relatively cleanly and I just moved the sliders over. I did not lube them at all since I like my boards slightly scratchy. I think it adds to the tactile experience. The silencing rings are 0.3mm, I think, and they are okay for alphas, but I think I would prefer thicker ones on mods. I have lubed the wire grooves with slightly thinned down BDZ. This is my first EC build. I have no idea if this is the right way to do it, but it seems to have worked fine. I loop the wire ends where they slot into the sliders too, kinda similar to how I would do it for MX, and then the wire goes in and the retainer goes on top of it. 2 screws, lightly tightened since threads are cut in palm, so I don't want to over tighten, and 2U stems are done. I've used pour-on top gaskets for the spacebar housings. I looped the wire grooves and the wire was more BDZ and that was that. Then I moved the domes over, PCB goes on top, and then I used 1,000,000 included screws to hold it all together. And here's the assembly. Looks pretty. Time to get the board out. Quick swap of the internals, put the caps on, and here is the first build. I did not expect to like it this much. Most of the Topre sound tests that I liked on YouTube were roomy stock ABS HHKP cases, so this was a pleasant surprise. This build does have some issues though. The deskey sliders that I have are weird. They sink a bit too deep into the housings when I bottom out. Not just in the clever plate, but in the deskeys housings that they were meant to work with as well. This causes interference with row 3 keycaps from my ABS DCS sets. I was curious if other keycaps have the same issue and also what they sound like on this build, so here's what I tried. Modern, thin ABS DCS. You've heard this already. Vintage, slightly thicker ABS DCS. PBT DCS. OG Cherry ABS. Modern ABS GMK. Modern PBT fans, which is ABS polycarbonate mix. I also have this set of Curative ABS blanks, and then I tried some XMI and some CRP on it. So here's a bunch of sound tests. Did you hear the interference? Double shot DCS caps have these ledges inside, and they touch the little round collar portion of the housing. GMK ironically has no interference, and all the PBT sets are fine as well. Listening back to the tests, I heavily prefer how this build sounds with DCS, especially the PBT deadbeats. There is just one small problem there. All of these tests had the plate mounted on the softer 50A friction fit claver gaskets. You can also use top mount, including relief top mount points, although the plate has no relief cuts, or JJW gaskets. So I've built a bunch of configurations, and here are those tests. And that concludes it. Clever mentioned that his Dynacap sliders are slightly raised compared to deskeys and should have no interference. Once his EC parts are available for purchase, I would definitely try to rebuild this, so I don't know, I guess stay tuned for a part 2 or something.